Is Maddie Webster. I'm a fourth-year PhD candidate in the American and New England Studies program at BU, and this summer I interned with Red Sox team historian Gordon Eads. While I wasn't able to be at Fenway Park due to the pandemic, Gordon was still kind enough to take me on, and he promised that once Fenway Park eventually opens up to the public, I'd get his special behind-the-scenes tour. When I first began my internship in May, I was invited right off the bat to hear Gordon talk about the history of the team and Fenway Park for former intern Rachel Kirby's summer course on the Red Sox, which was the perfect way to receive a crash course since, to be honest, my knowledge of the team was pretty much confined to attending many a Red Sox game in the more than 7 years I've lived in the city. And as a Boston historian, I found I can hardly stay away from the Red Sox. They really seem to creep into most books on the history of the city since it's such an ingrained part of its 20th century history. But with Gordon, my knowledge base really skyrocketed, and not just on the history of the team, but also what his particular brand of public humanities entails, as it is so different than the other public history internships I've had in the past at museums and with preservation agencies. For example, his writing chops seem to come in use for all sorts of things, like press releases, speeches, and whatever the team needed, Gordon was ready to do. Observing Gordon work impressed upon me the variety of skills you need to have to make it outside academia. As for the projects I worked on, the first was documenting how the pandemic was affecting Major League Baseball by compiling a bibliography of news stories. And then at the end of my internship, I wrote a summary of all that had unfolded since March, and there was a lot to write about, particularly the dramatic negotiations between the MLB owners and the Players Association over the logistics of the shortened season. Secondly, I helped Gordon with the Great Fenway Park Writers Series, hosted virtually by moderating the Q&A at the end of each of the 3 book talks. We had some really incredible authors talk about the people and topics that were important, such as Willie Mays, the Celtics' Bob Cousy and Bill Russell, and the Swing Kings of Major League Baseball. While helping Gordon with these events, I also had the privilege of meeting and spending many Zoom meetings with former Red Sox president Larry Lucchino and poet laureate of the Red Sox, Dick Flavin. But I will say, while I enjoyed all the tasks and projects I did, the most interesting and time-consuming of my projects was an article that I researched and wrote about the Royal Rooters, who were the Red Sox's first and most passionate fan club at the turn of the century. So rather than write yet another piece about their antics as a traveling fan club, I focused on their headquarters, the Third Base Saloon, and how its owner, Michael "Nuff Said" McGreevy, turned it into both one of the first sports bars in the U.S. and this sort of unofficial museum of working-class Irish-American history and culture at a time when the only Irish-American historical society in the U.S. was this really exclusive elite institution, and they certainly did not care about baseball. So it turns out I was able to write up an article that fit with my own research on Boston history and preservation, and that I really hope will be a benefit to the organization in the future. So in conclusion, I just want to say thank you so much to Gordon, thank you to the Red Sox, and of course thank you to BUCH and the Office of the Associate Provost for Graduate Affairs for really what was such a wonderful summer opportunity, even if it was remote. So thank you very much.